Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. And this time, love is in the air. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. And there is also plenty of love and lots to love about our books. As we're sharing our titles this time, if you're interested in getting your hands on any of them, the quickest way is probably to call your local branch of the Monroe County Library System and talk to the staff there, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. The next way is to go right online to our catalog, and that web address is on your screen now, and you can request physical versions of the titles that you see. And you'll also see that some of our titles are available on one of our 2 digital platforms. Some are available through Overdrive, which you may hear referred to as Libby. Libby is the name of Overdrive's app. And Overdrive offers downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and also magazines. Our other digital platform is Hoopla, and Hoopla offers downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and movies, music, and graphic novels. And if you see the lightning bolt next to any title on Hoopla, that means more than one person can have that checked out at the same time. So that means there are never a wait for those titles. I am Jennifer Grameski, and I am the community librarian at the Dundee branch. And our introductory question for this week is, what is your favorite romantic film? And honestly, I just asked the group here what our question was and went, oh, what is my favorite romantic film? Because I don't tend to be a romantic film watcher. And I do remember when I first came up with the question that I was going to say Gone Girl, because I remember going to see that. And if you know Gone Girl, it's like it's like a relationship gone really, really wrong. And I remember going to see that with my husband, and I had read the book. He didn't know anything about it. And I can't remember, I think it was for our anniversary. And that was the film that I chose to go see. We went and saw Gone Girl. What says romance more than, murder? So yeah, good times. But other than that, my other one is Drew Barrymore is in a film called Never Been Kissed. And she goes back to high school as an adult who is struggling even with adulthood. And she goes back to high school, and it's her chance not to be the nerd that she was in high school. And along the way, the truth comes out about that she is a reporter and she's undercover, and she finds love along the way as well. So I really enjoyed that one because I was completely a geek in high school, and I can understand, even though I would never want to go back to high school, no thank you, I can understand the joy of going back and getting all the things that maybe you didn't get originally the first time around in high school. So also with us this week is Jessica Otto, our head of collections here at the Monroe County Library System. And what is your favorite romantic film, Jessica?
So ironically enough, my favorite romantic film is actually based on one of the books that I will be talking about today. It is the 1996 cinematic masterpiece, The English Patient. I will get into more details about the plot when I talk about the book, but in short, it is an epic, sweeping love story that is set against the backdrop of the North African and Italian campaigns of World War II. It won 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. It features amazing performances by Ralph Fiennes, Kristen Scott Thomas, and Juliette Binoche. Not only do I love this movie for the fact that it is a quote unquote love story, but it's about all types of love, not just romantic love. I love its explorations of platonic love and filial love, just an exploration of love in general. For me, it's the type of film that makes me realize how good movies can be and how powerful they can be. It just, even now, I've seen it several times, and I just sit back and I go, wow, this is really good stuff. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It is a long film. There's no way around that, but it's fantastic. So that one's my favorite.
Thank you, Jessica. And I have not seen that, so I will have to put that on my to-watch list. So also with us this week is Barbara Kruger, who is our community outreach coordinator for the library system. And what's your favorite romantic film, Barbara?
So my favorite romantic film is Love Actually, which I'm happy to talk about in just a second. But I want to say to Jessica, I am so excited to hear you talk about this film and movie, because I tried to watch your movie, The English Patient, twice because it won so many awards. I wanted to like it, and I just didn't at first. So I am hoping you can change my mind about that. Mine is not a cinematic masterpiece. It's just a fun rom-com. Love Actually is a 2003 film that has 9 intertwining love stories. The one I most easily relate to is the middle-aged mom who is devoted to her children, even going so far as to make lobster costumes for their nativity play, which you might think is an odd combination, but it works really well in the film. The main character, the main thread, is Hugh Grant's character, who is the new Prime Minister of England, and his growing infatuation with a staff member. But my favorite one is this boy, Sam, who learns to play the drums to impress his school crush in the Christmas talent show. There's a dramatic, airport scene at the end. And of course, they all live happily ever after, which is my favorite component of any film or book.
Thank you, Barbara. Also with us this week is Stephanie Winterstein, who is our youth services coordinator for the library system and also takes care of youth programming at our Ida and Summerfield Petersburg branches. And what's your favorite romantic film?
Okay, so true confession here. I watch a lot of rom-coms. It's pretty much a joke in my house that if the TV's on, it's going to be some cheesy Lifetime movie or Hallmark movie or something. Needless to say, my husband and I don't watch a lot of movies together because his are all the mystery suspense, and I can do that, but I just like to decompress and watch, some nice happy ending movies. So my favorite is About Time. It's from, I think, 2013, but it's a time travel movie, which kind of sounds a little strange. But actually one of the reasons that I first saw it is my daughter watched it and she's like, Mom, you got to watch this movie. You're going to love it. Well, we've now watched it probably a dozen times, and any time. That's the one movie we did make my husband sit through, and he's like, it was fine. But we've all watched it many times. But the reason I love it is Tim learns from his father that the men in their family have a little secret, and it's that they can go back in time and relive events and change certain things. So Tim makes it his mission to find someone to love him. He's going to find a girlfriend. So, as you would. So he meets a girl at a party, something bad happens, embarrassing. And he's like, yeah, we got to do that again. So he goes in the closet, does this little thing. And when he comes out, he can do it all over again until he gets it right. So that part is fun. That part of the film, obviously he finds Mary and they, progress through life, and, throughout time he can go and change little things until certain things happen with his father and he realizes that he has to make some choices and he can't go back and change them anymore. So it's kind of one of those, you have to think about some things and what's really important to you. But so kind of like Jessica said, there's lots of different kinds of love stories in this. There's the romantic love story. There's the love between parents and children, and friends. And I don't know. It's just one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites to watch with my girls. And I really think everyone should watch it if you haven't seen it.
Even know that I've heard of that one, so I'll have to add that one to my list too. So thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to go ahead and start sharing some of our books. And when we interpreted this whole Valentine's Day love theme, we went very broad with it. As long as it is a book that you love, then we said, let's share those books as well as maybe some of the more traditional romance novels. So these are books that we love and that we think will bring love to you as well. So I'm going to ask Jessica to go ahead and kick us off, just because one of her books I fell in love with as soon as I saw the cover. So
I'm guessing that was my first title, which is the book, excuse me while I get my notes. It is Treat by the German journalist and photographer Christian Wieler. Excuse me. So this book definitely lives up to its name. It is such a simple yet genius concept. Each page of this book features a photograph of a dog in the moment just before the dog catches a treat in its mouth, or before it attempts to catch a treat, I should say. Sometimes it doesn't always, land where it's gonna go. It features photographs of over 60 dogs of all shapes and sizes, and it also includes photographs of the photographer's dog, a Labrador named Lotte. So once you get through all the photographs, when you get to the end of the book, there is sort of there's a little versions of a photo of each of the dogs, and underneath the photo, you get to see all of their names. So the dog on the cover, her name is Tanya, and the two featured in our slides are Bubba and Kalle. Are in the slides. So not only do I love this book so much, I just adore this book, but I think there is just a lot of love going on in the book. The fact that this book exists shows how much this photographer loves dogs, that he just gets dogs. And as you look at the amazingly joyful expressions on the faces of these dogs as they are about to snack on their favorite treat, you can just tell how much dogs love their treats. Like, that's really special for them. Sorry, just turning over my notes here. So I'm also happy to say, so this book was published a few years back. I'm happy to say that last year in 2021, the author published a sequel called Treat 2, which we just recently added to the MCLS collection, and that one features two dogs side by side, attempting to catch their treats. So I highly recommend this book to anyone if you are a fan of dogs or the dog photography genre. Even if you don't have a dog, this book it sparks so much joy for me. And it's, anytime I'm having a little down day, I need to pick up, this is the type of thing that's like, life is good because this book exists. So highly recommend it. It will bring a smile to your face.
And I just got to pop in there when you said if you had a bad day. So I was having a morning. I was here at work. I was, as you do with coworkers, I'm going off about something. And I happened to request these books because you had put them into this program. And so as I'm, my coworker looked at me. She's like, I got something that's going to make you happy. And I'm like, what? And she handed me these books. And literally I was like, oh, I started going through them, completely changed my tone, completely changed how I was feeling. I was like, the world is not a bad place if there are pictures with dogs getting treats in it. Like, it just brightened everything up, and I was like, okay, I can let that other stuff go. So yes, so much love in my heart for these books, and thank you for sharing them here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's my first title. So moving on to my second title, which is a completely different work. So I have The English Patient. Now this is the book based, this is by Michael Ondaatje. So the novel is set at various times during the North African and Italian campaigns of World War II. The story begins at an Italian villa where a Canadian Army nurse, Hannah, is caring for a patient who is very badly burned. And the patient, he is presumed to be English based on the way that he speaks, but he has no memory of who he is and no memory of how he came to be. So there really came to be burned, excuse me. So there really is some mystery about his identity and whether he really is English or not. All that he knows is that he was found by the Bedouin people of North Africa, who said that he fell burning from the sky. And they got him into the care. He eventually ended up in the care of Hannah, this nurse. And one of his possessions survived the fire with him, which is a copy of the Histories by Herodotus. And Hannah begins to read to him from this book. And not only is it the book with just the works of Herodotus, but it's also a work that he has written many notes in this book over time. He's written a lot of his observations over time, almost like a diary entry, so to say. And as Hannah begins to read to him from this book, he starts to regain some memories, and he starts to recall the events that led up to how he became burned and how he got to where he is with Hannah in the villa. And so he starts to recall a time several years before when he was a member of an international group of cartographers that were exploring the desert of North Africa. They were mapping the desert. And one day, a new member comes to join their group, an Englishman by the name of Geoffrey Clifton. And he is accompanied by his wife, Catherine. And their arrival into this expedition of desert explorers, it sort of sets into motion the events that lead to the patient burning from the sky and into the care of Hannah. The story is, it's told out of sequence. It sort of jumps back and forth between the patient under the care of Hannah in Italy a little later during the war, and then back into the late 30s when he was a member of the cartography group that was exploring the desert. I highly recommend this book, not just for fans of love stories. It definitely is in the love story category. There are two very powerful love stories happening in this book, but also fans of historical fiction or fans of war fiction, I think, would enjoy this work as well. This book was published in 1992 for the first time. It won the 1992 Booker Prize. It also won the 1992 Governor General's Award. And more recently, it was awarded in 2018, the Golden Man Booker Award, which I believe was a one-time award in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Booker Awards. As I mentioned, this was adapted into an Academy Award-winning film in 1996. And I just read very recently that the BBC is working on adapting the novel into a television series for the BBC. So I was very interested to read that, because I think the fact that it shows that this book is still having such an impact on our culture 30 years after its initial release. I think that really speaks to the power of this book and how good of a work it is. So I highly recommend this if you haven't read it. We have copies in the system. Don't hesitate to check it out.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica.
Welcome.
And let's have Barbara share her books that have love in them.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jessica, for yours. I based on your recommendation, I'm willing to give it another try. So thank you for that. One of the books that I chose to talk about today is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. This is a classic. I was first introduced to it maybe 30 years ago during a Bible study. And in it, he outlines what he believes are the 5 types of ways people express love. And they are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And one of the things that he espouses is that you tend to give the kind of love that you want to receive. So for me, one of my primary language of love is words of affirmation. Probably not surprising in the line of work that I do. I love words, love everything about the words. I think your words are the most powerful thing about you. And so for me, words of affirmation is a love language that I receive well and I give often. And that's great until the person that you are loving on, has a different love language. So I think that's an interesting thing to think about for your own self. If you're not familiar with them, maybe take a look at the book, learn a little bit more about each of the languages and see what your primary love language is. And then I think it's interesting to think about people in your life, like a child or a spouse, and you may think you know what their love language is, but if you ask them, you may be surprised that maybe there's a little bit of difference there. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. What I did not know until I started preparing for this session is that it's turned into a love languages dynasty. There are now 5 love languages for couples, 5 love languages for men, 5 love languages for children, 5 love language singles edition, 5 love languages of appreciation in the workplace, which I might be looking into or having my staff look into, 5 love languages for teenagers. This one I thought was interesting, keeping love alive as memories fade, the 5 love languages and the Alzheimer's journey. And the one I'm going to be checking out for my own self is 5 Love Languages Military Edition. So I thought that was very interesting and would highly recommend that. It's not a rom-com, but it is an interesting book about love. The other title that I'd like to talk about today is new for me. As I was preparing for the latest snowstorm, I was looking through trying to find something to keep myself occupied in case the power went out. And I found, and I'll confess, I picked it because I like the title. I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I thought this was an intriguing title. And it is Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Kamal Ravikant. And in it, the author, I listened to it on audio, and the author narrates it, which I love. He talks about a time when he was being introduced at a conference, and his introduction, the person who was introducing him said that Kamal was an infantry soldier in the United States Army. He climbed the Himalayas. He walked across Spain on an ancient pilgrimage, and that Kamal is always moving. And the speaker said, "I'm sure he'll have something interesting to share with us." And then when Kamal came to the stage and stepped up to the microphone, he said, "If I could do anything, I would share with you the secret of life, which I just figured out a few months ago." And then he starts speaking about his love journey. It's not as arrogant as that sounds, because when I first heard that, I'm like, really? You think you've got the secret to life? But it actually comes not from a place of arrogance, but a place of pain. So he talks about how he was an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, and his business failed. He was just gone through a painful breakup. He had physical illness in his body, and he talks about this secret of life, which you can guess based on the title is Love Yourself, which sounds like a very simple principle, but may be difficult in practice. I think in general, this is probably more difficult for women or anyone whose personality tends towards nurturing. I guess I should say that. It's often easier for us to give love to people than to receive that or see that in our own selves. So he started with a vow, and I'm going to read you the vow that he made to his own self. He said, "This day I vow to love myself and treat myself as someone I love truly and deeply in my thoughts, choices, and actions." And I really like that. And then he outlines the steps in his journey, which started with his vow. He talks about meditation and the role that played for him. He has a mirror exercise, and then he concludes with one question. And the one question is, if I loved myself truly and deeply, would I? And then you can fill in the blank. He fills in the blank with a very philosophical approach, and his was, if I love myself truly and deeply, would I limit myself to what I previously thought possible? I thought that was nice and kind of lofty. Since I finished this book about a week ago, I've been doing that in a more practical kind of way. For example, if I loved myself truly and deeply, would I eat ice cream for breakfast? Maybe, maybe not. If I loved myself truly and deeply, would I be in this relationship, or would I make this choice? It was just, to me, a very interesting way to frame the concept, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to him narrate this. It is not often that I recommend books to friends because my choices seem to be a little esoteric. I have a particular kind of genre I really like, and it's not for everybody, and that's fine, because the Monroe County Library System has more than 575,000 options in our catalog for you to choose from. Not everybody needs to read Regency romance like I do. But this book I've actually recommended to a couple of coworkers, several friends, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope that some of you do too.
That sounds amazing. Thank you, Barbara. And also on the 5 love languages, that's such a good book to open up lines of communication. Like, even if I haven't read any of the other ones, but just the main one. And I just feel that even if you're not sure of what your love language is, just sitting down and talking about them with your partner. And as you were talking, I was like, oh, I should probably really do that with Tony. Because like you said, you kind of assume what it probably is, but who knows what's going on in his 13-year-old.
And I didn't realize there was one specifically for teenagers. I might have enjoyed that when my kids were in that phase.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's have Stephanie share her books that have love in the air.
All right. Well, first, I do want to point out that I also enjoyed the 5 love languages, and I was not at all expecting because there's little quizzes that you have to take in there to figure out what you are. Not at all what I was expecting for myself or my husband. So it was really interesting.
Are you willing to share what yours is?
Yes, my whole family thought I was going to be words of affirmation, because I'm always like, I love you. You look so cute. Oh, like I'm constantly that's just who I am. Like, we don't leave the house without I love yous and all that kind of stuff. But I was actually quality time, which surprised me. But I mean, it makes sense too. I mean, I could really be all of them probably, except gifts. Like, that's not my whole thing. But yeah, it was really, really interesting. So definitely, I third that that recommendation. Now, my 2 books have really nothing at all to do with love. I just love them. So and they're funny in different ways. One of them is for kids and one of them is not for kids. But that's all right. So I'm going to talk about the first one that's for kids. Terry Border is an author and illustrator that I've loved for a very long time. But this most recent one, Snack Attack, I read it to my classes at both Ida and Summerfield in K through 6, and every single one, like, they were all just laughing hysterically, and they want a sequel because they want to see what happens in the end. Like, so basically you have Cookie, which is the pink little wafer. You have Pretzel Stick and Cheese Doodle, not to be confused with Cheese Puff or Cheese Cheeto. We had a whole discussion about that. They escape from their packages, and they are trying to escape the monsters, which are the children who are going to eat them. And it's very cleverly done. One of the pictures, there is like a spoon, there's spices that you climb, and then you slide down the spoon into some sprinkles. And that's like they're playing. There's another one where maybe they won't get eaten if they roll in the dirt on the floor, because they've heard of something called the 5-second rule. And so they like cover themselves in dirt and dust bunnies, and the kids love that part because it's like, I would eat it, I wouldn't, so that part was funny. Well, then they find a note from the monster mom telling them to have a snack, telling one of the children to have a snack after school. So they find different ways to, escape that. Well, they get clever and tell the monster to drink water instead and eat nothing. Well, there's a twist at the end. Because Cookie, who's a very smart Cookie, they're like, that worked. Our plan worked, right, Cookie? And then they're like, Cookie? Cookie got eaten. So they want a second book to find out if Cookie escaped, if Cookie is hiding somewhere. So it was super duper fun. So it's my current favorite picture book. So I love it. There you go. That's why I love that one. The other one I haven't read in years, but it really sticks with me as just being cute. I love penguins. So when I came across this book, I'm like, oh, this is a kid's book. Not really. It's not a kid's book if you've read it. But it's just got cute little illustrations like on the cover there. And they have problems just like humans do, like stress eating after a penguin breakup, as it might happen. Frustrated at how much a good cocktail costs when you go out. It's just super cute to hear that, these penguins could have the same problems that, humans do. And the pictures are really what make it. But if you just want a cute little laugh, and if you just love penguins, and you should check it out.
I requested it as soon as you sent it to me and I saw the cover. I was like, I don't even know what this book is about, but I need to know what sort of people problems penguins are out there having. So,
and I think what happened was when I requested it for a story time just because I typed in penguins, and I obviously didn't read it at story time because there was a couple other ones that were definitely not appropriate. But I didn't really look at that. It wasn't an easy book. I'm just like, penguins. Oh, cute cover. Like,
sure.
No. Yeah, no. Luckily, I read it all before I shared it with anyone. I did come home and share it with my family, but not small children.
Not at story time.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now for mine. I have one that is a Gothic romance. And I'm pretty sure by looking at the covers, you should be able to guess which one the Gothic romance is. And that is The Death of Jane Lawrence. And this one was actually on the cover of Book Page, which is a magazine that many of your branch libraries subscribe to. And it's got a whole bunch of book reviews in it about books that are coming out that month. Well, this was the cover of it for, it might have been October. And I couldn't resist that cover. Me and my horror. And I love Gothic stories. I love Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I love Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. You're going to get storms. You're going to get a weird, creepy house. And you're going to get a partner that has deep, dark secrets. And The Death of Jane Lawrence has all of those. And it starts off with Jane, who is practical and unassuming and has a real head for numbers. And the family that she's been living with took her in when her parents passed away when she was a child. And they are getting ready now to move houses. And Jane doesn't want to leave where she's at. And so she decides that the solution is to get married. And being very practical, she makes a list of the men who are eligible. And she doesn't really want love in her marriage. She goes into this as though it's going to be a business proposition. She's very good at keeping numbers and keeping books. She can do the accounting work. And so they're going to get somebody that's going to be super helpful. She can do stuff around the home as well. And so she goes with her first choice, who is Dr. Lawrence. And she makes this proposition to him, and he thinks about it. And he comes back and he agrees. And his only stipulation is that she has to live where his doctor practice is in town. She cannot come out to his estate, Lindridge Hall, which you immediately know, well, what's hiding in the house? Like, come on. And of course, there's a storm and somehow Jane ends up at Lindrich Hall and all the secrets come out. And they are, of course, deep and dark. This does cut much closer to horror than some of our more traditional Gothic romances. So if you're considering this, be prepared for a definite horror aspect. They describe some of Dr. Lawrence's surgeries, and they're fairly graphic. And then that this is a horror novel, even though there is a love story there. So, Jane and Dr. Lawrence find a little something that they like about each other. And of course, then deep, dark secrets. So Gothic romance is your thing. This one's worth picking up. So that's The Death of Jane Lawrence. The other is a series that I read. It's probably been 10 years or more since I read these. But when I first picked them up, I picked them up because one, some other people that I was working with were reading them and they were like, they're fabulous. And I was like, I'm not a romance reader. But then I saw these covers, and every cover in this series has a beautiful young woman in these amazing dresses. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to pick it up and we'll see how it goes. And I wasn't sure that I was going to stick with it. And I did. And it really is, in the book description from the publisher, it says pretty girls in pretty dresses partying until dawn. There are irresistible boys. There's white lies and rumors and scandalous hookups, all in a novel set in 1899. So I wouldn't go to the Lux series for your history. But if you want to go just because they have beautiful dresses and they're having balls and coming out parties, and Anna Godberson is great at describing all of that luxury, all of that glitz and glamour of that time, then you can pick this one up. And one of my friends that wrote her review, the first 2 words from her review was that it is delightfully trashy. And that is what this is. It is like, it's going to keep you turning the pages, to find out like, oh, who's with who and whose, family is destroyed because they went off and married the wrong person or fell in love with them or they ran off with them. And the central story in this particular one focuses on 2 sisters, Elizabeth and Diana Holland, and it is set in New York City. So it's 1899, sort of, in New York City. And one of the sisters has disappeared. And so throughout the novel, you're kind of finding out why she would have disappeared and what may have happened to her, but not in that Gothic romancy way. It's much more, I want to find out what happens and who's with who and what's happened to this family and are they going to survive this? So it is delightfully trashy. It's very fun. It's very much like a soap opera. And if you just need a break from reality and you like your break to take place amongst the wealthy, then pick up the Lux series. It'll keep you turning the pages or listening, because I think we might have had it available on audio. I'm not sure, but we can get it for you if we don't immediately have it available. So those are my 2 Love is in the Air books. Thank you to each of you for sharing your titles with us. Thank you to those of you who listened. And the next time we come and share titles, we are going to be celebrating Black History Month and Black Voices. So we look forward to coming back and sharing more books with you then. Thank you. Bye.